Oh, boy, am I excited to bring out our first guest tonight. You know, a lot of times on our show, we introduce guests by saying they've appeared on The Tonight Show. Well, our first guest started The Tonight Show. Ladies and gentlemen, say hello to Steve Allen. Absolutely. Unless you want to do a little dance, we sit down. I would think you would know how this works. You come out, you sit down.
Well, I know how that part works. This is different. By the way, that's a very clever routine. Extremely clever.
Thank you. We have a lot of writers who need severe psychological help. Mm-hmm. So,
comedy is seriously about tragedy. That's the raw material of most comedy, and that's about as tragic a routine as I've ever heard.
Hang on a second. Whoa.
We need a drummer. We do need rim shots for my material.
I just want to. I got to get this here.
All right.
I keep this up here. You know, when a guest comes on the show, they usually send a bio, you know, a couple of pages about their lives in the business. Steve Allen's.
Did they send that? Really?
Yes, they said. Oh, like you don't know. They got a hernia carrying this thing.
Actually, there is a use for that, but it makes no sense here. Sometimes
Look,
people.
These are just little snippets about you, and this is just about your life in comedy.
Yeah.
The music and the theater and everything's volumes 6 through 12.
When people are writing a long magazine piece or something, then they need that, but not for a talk show.
Well, I needed a doorstop, so this will come in mighty handy. Every time you update your resume, we lose another rainforest in the Amazon. Now, this is true that you pretty much started the Tonight Show format. You were the first host?
You can erase pretty much. Yeah, I did.
You did.
Yeah. And I would have been glad to be the 19th, but nobody had done it before me, so I guess that makes me first.
Now, were you involved in developing the show?
Believe it or not, there was no talk of development. When I was hired for the job, they just said, "Can you fill up 90 minutes a night?" I said, "Yeah." Because they had, by they, I mean the people who ran NBC's New York station at the time, in the early 50s, 53. They had no concept, they had no formula, and at that point they didn't even have the word tonight. The show just had my name, as your show has your name. But I said I could do that because I'd already done it in daytime and in late night radio in Los Angeles. So the very fact that it had no strict formula meant we could do anything. Some nights we just did a formula, the talk show, 2 or 3 people sitting there, I was where you are. Other nights we would do half-hour dramas, I mean complete with scripts, 2-week rehearsal, just regular dramas. We would have
come out and do a play?
Yeah, an actual play, 30-minute form. It was actually a cheap way to do a sitcom pilot. That was what we were doing. But,
always thinking, Steve
yeah.
Marino, always thinking.
But other times you'd have, as I was about to say, political debates, or we'd get a jazz great like Duke Ellington or Art Tatum and let them do 20 minutes. These days on most talk shows, if they get booked at all, that's rare. And if they do get on, they do 3 minutes.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I know you also did a lot of crazy stunts on the show.
Yes.
You had a real silly streak as well as the hip enough streak to bring on jazz greats. Mm-hmm. And I have a list of some of the things that you've done on the show. You were covered with tea bags and dumped in a tank of hot water.
Yes.
And then served to the audience.
The audience drank me. That's right.
Okay. You were dropped into a bowl of Jell-O.
A big, enormous vat of Jell-O, yes.
A huge bowl. Yeah, right.
I tried to get into those little bowls, but it didn't work.
Little Dixie cup full of, yeah. But then again, you were younger, so you might. You were tossed with lettuce, tomato, oil, and vinegar.
Yes. I remember that night the producers came to me and they said, at a crucial point in the show tonight, there will be different people on the show will say, make me a chocolate malted milk, make me some hot toast or whatever. And when they ask you what you want, you just say, make me a salad. And I began to figure out what might happen when I did that. But game trooper that I am, I went ahead and said it. And they did make me a salad. They ripped my clothes off real fast, put me in an enormous wooden bowl, put in 400 things of lettuce and tomatoes and soy sauce and everything, and made me a salad. And the audience came up and ate me that night.
True. By the way, if anybody here would like to eat me, I would appreciate it.
Ding, ding, ding. Where's my bell?
It's the golden age of cable, Steve.
Yeah.
Okay, you were smeared with dog food and licked clean by 28 dogs.
Yes, that is
28,
true.
Of course, being the Hebrew number for good luck.
That night, I really did not know for sure what was up. And I knew that meant just that it would be messy, but how messy, I had no idea. So the gang grabbed me, threw me to the ground, and they had big gobs, like buckets of this stuff. At first, I didn't know what it was. It looked like it could be peanut butter or anything. It was dog food. And they smeared me liberally, as we say. And then somebody went, psh, and a whole bunch of dogs came out and had a nice time.
Oh, yeah. I'm pretty sure just the dogs had a nice time.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. You were you, you were covered with ice cream, bananas, chocolate syrup, whipped cream, and nuts, and served to the audience once again.
Oh, yeah.
You basically you're pretty cheap, is what you're saying. You're cheap, and you'll do anything.
Yeah.
But,
I really left all that stuff up to our staff. I would have preferred that they wrote me sketches and stand-up bits and stuff, but they were always trying to get me in danger. Now, what, in all seriousness, what they had discovered is that, forgetting whether I am funny at all, that's a separate matter for individual judgment, but whatever degree of funniness I can achieve, it's the best when I really am not sure what's going on and I'm in some kind of a mess or danger, actual danger. Then the funny button turns on. Not at the moment, of course.
Now, you inspired a whole generation of comedians and television personalities. Have any of them acknowledged your inspiration?
Yes, seriously, to David Letterman's great credit, he has many times, for the public record, explained, first of all, that he watched that old show, the one in the early 60s, every night when he was going to college. And he thought, boy, I'd like to get into TV, and if I do, I'd like to do a show like that. So he got into it, and he's doing a show like that. I don't mind that. I think it's nice.
Have you been on David's show?
I've been on twice, yeah.
And does he treat you with the reverence that...
He doesn't treat anybody with reverence.
Did you do any stunts on his show?
No, I just sat there and talked very dully, as I am at the moment. Just kind of
By the way, you're doing a very, very fine job.
a really dull job.
Well, now, who inspired you?
My mother, believe it or not, that's not just a silly joke.
That's where the dog gag came from, right?
Now, cut that out.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But my mother and father were a vaudeville comedy team. My mother did comedy professionally. Milton Berle was once kind enough, in fact, to describe her as the funniest woman in vaudeville, and I believe she was. She was incredibly witty. She had a marvelous act. We used her on my show and in Vegas and stuff in her later years. But I didn't know I was anything like her. I idolized Robert Benchley and Fred Allen. They were my two chief idols when I was a teenager, but I don't see them in my work. I wish I did, but I don't. But as I got old enough to see things that I had taped or filmed 20 years earlier, I suddenly thought, my God, there's my mother's hands and casual way of throwing a line aside. So she's the big influence.
Wow, that's wild. And who inspired you once you got in the business?
Well, if you mean influence, I hope nobody did, because I think it's better to be individual. But I love talent. All people have to, have me a member of their fan club is talent, whether it's for violin playing, comedy, acting, whatever it is. I think it's because I grew up around vaudeville theaters, and at the age of 4, I could smell talent 80 yards away, and I could also smell no talent 800 yards away. And oddly enough, I learned over the years, it doesn't much matter whether you're in Group A or Group B. Some big no talents have done well in this business. I'm serious. And we can all name, I bet you can name 10 guys.
Don't point at me like that.
No, sorry. No, we can all name friends of ours who we thought, boy, Charlie's going to do great, and poor Charlie is still working in a restaurant, So there are other things than talent that account for success in this crazy business.
Now, you have done over 20 TV and radio shows.
Can't hold a steady job, I guess.
Can't hold a job. 36 books.
Yeah.
And it says here that you've written 4,000 songs.
That's right, it says that there, yeah.
Is that true? 4,000
That is also
songs?
true, yes.
Everyone a hit? Is that true,
no,
really?
No, not. Yeah, I'll put it this way. It's easier to talk about other people. Irving Berlin, America's favorite songwriter, he had about 50 hits, which is more than anybody else, an incredible achievement. Think, 50 giant hits, but he wrote over 1,000 songs. So if you look at it that way, even the giant writers, the Cole Porters and all those guys, Richard Rodgers, the percentage of their hits was very small. It's not that their greatest songs became their biggest hits and at the bottom of the line it was nothing. Sometimes the best song they ever wrote never made it because the show closed in Denver or whatever.
So are you making excuses?
Yeah, I bombed a lot.
Okay. Steve Allen, thanks for being here.
Thank you, Paul.
So honored to see you.
My pleasure.
More on